Live on Lockdown Chats, brought to you by the Elf Renault Duster Cross Country Racing Squad. So welcome to Live on Lockdown, proudly brought to you by the Elf Renault Duster Cross Country Racing Squad. They're an amazing team, and in a very short time, what they've achieved on their vehicle and at the racetracks has been absolutely epic. It's a pleasure to welcome Johan Van Staden, and we're going to start things out by going down to the Elf Renault Duster Racing Workshop to start things out and find out more about the history of this incredible racing team. Starting things out with Johan, the man himself, and where it all began.
Just to hear me better, I'm going to remove my mask. So my racing career started in 2006. A friend of ours, Jan Kraai, introduced me to his Spec Zero, which is the first car I purchased shortly after that. With his motivation and guidance, we started the regional championship with the Spec Zero. We purchased it from Brandon Hawkes, and we immediately had it fitted with a V6 motor. From there, we basically competed in a regional championship in 2007, 2008, building up to winning that championship 2 years in a row. Had my first national towards end of 2008. Got inspiration from Hannes Grobber at that point to move to nationals. A bit skeptic, but I took the bite. Upgraded myself from that zero, which is Class A in the regional championship, to Class P in the national championship. We ran the Class P for 1 year and upgraded that to a Spec 2 vehicle, which took us to 2010. In that year, in 2010, with Hannes' motivation, we made history. We effectively became the first Class P team ever to win a event, first category, first class and first overall, with Hannes finishing a couple of seconds behind us. That was a highlight in my career there. The motivation then was obviously strong. We then upgraded from the Class P into the Class A in 2011. I had, in that period, built the Spec 5, one of the first in the country. The Spec 4 was the best model at that point in time, and Nick Harper helped us to build the Spec 5. With that Spec 5, it took us to 2011, 2012. In 2012, we won in the desert race, we won the Dakar Challenge, which obviously escalated our career to the next point. 2012, qualifying for the rookie entry to Dakar, going to 2013 Dakar, the first time in a McRae, which was a rented car. From the 2013 Dakar coming back, we started developing our own South African built Nissan Navara. That took us to the 2014 and 15 championship, back to Dakar in 2015 with the Nissan Navara. Returning from Dakar 2015, we started development on the next phase of our career, which is the car standing behind us, the Renault, that we entered into at the end of 2017. And we started the 2018 season in the Renault and been campaigning in the Renault since then. So that's a short, compacted history of our race career start to date.
So with an amazing journey through the history of a lot of different styles, types and manufacturers of vehicles, the question has to be posed. Why, when the decision was there, did they go for Renault, and how did that collaboration and partnership begin?
So at the end of our 2017 season, it was time to evolve again. And we pondered between brands. Renault was not existing on the off-road front, so my natural selection between options on the table was, because Nissan and Renault is affiliated, I went for the Renault brand to bring it onto table. Inspiration came from Dakar, where I saw the Renault of Emmanuel Spataro in action, which I believe there's a lot of potential for that off-road car in South Africa. That led obviously to a natural marriage that existed before the time already, without my knowledge, that Elf brand is specified at factory level already to be used in the Renaults only. So Total South Africa owns the Elf brand locally, and Elf stands for Elegant Lubricant France. We decided to follow up on that relationship, and we managed to put back together the most amazing relationship between Renault and Elf on the local South African cross-country series.
For a man who seems to have been in the cross-country racing world for a very long time and achieved some amazing results, he actually hasn't had that many navigators and teammates on his side. In fact, to this date, only 3. Johan tells us a story as to why.
So with a background on our history, where we came from, I'd like to talk about our teammates. Now, teammates are most important in our racing. First of all, in my regional championship campaigns, I had James Rousseau on my side. He used to be a co-worker at the company, which made it easy from a mechanical point of view, so the relationship was already formed. Someone that I could trust, someone I could have fun with together, but someone that could share time, both in work time and outside work time. So James Rousseau campaigned with me in the Class A, Spec 0, as well as in the Class P, all the way to 2010. He exited the vehicle in 2011 after injuring his back. I asked Charmaine, our race mom, to advise me on who the next navigator could be, and she put me in touch with Mike. Mike Lawrenson then joined me in the Spec 5 at the first event at RFS Magalis, and we won that event, and I said to him, "That's going to work. You're English-speaking guy, short and sweet, basic rules in the car," so we started campaigning together both 2012 and 2013. Our Dakar 2013 was done together, 2014 season, 2015 Dakar with Mike as well. 2016 and 17 in the championships in the Atlas Copco Nissan Navara, and 2018 we started with Elf in a Renault together, and 19, towards the end of 19, Mike advised us about his retirement, and my son Sean took over the reins as we started in 2020 season.
With an illustrious career, it's always hard to mark out those exceptional races and the big events that really held true and how they are put slightly higher than the rest of them. Johan explains some of his best drives and best results through the years.
Every event, when you compete in that event and you finish or don't finish, is a best drive for any of our race drivers, because you get experience, seating time, you get the experience until that very moment. It's all the way to the podium or it's to where the wheel falls off. It doesn't matter. But best drives, I would say that some of them stand out. You will have specifically in the regional championship, the best drive in my regional career was Piet Plessis. One of the most, it's the all desert area. So that stands out. And prize giving is awesome, because at that prize giving you get a massive trophy, half a sheep and a big piece of biltong. It's typical of the regional championships. Best drive in national would be Desert Race. It's the iconic race of the season. It takes place in Botswana, and one year specifically we're competing in Spec 5, and we got to beat Mr. Evan Hutchinson, and I got to stand on the top step and look down at him, and he looked up and he said to me, "It sucks to come second." So those are typical, the best drive of my national career. International, without any doubt, is the Dakar. Dakar 2015, we finished 31st. But finishing was the most important for us. So the real reward on the best drive was to finish that 10,500 kilometers of drive and come home with a small trophy, but the experience was more worth than anything else. And locally, there's a new one, KR. It's also a good drive, and we're looking forward to the 2020 KR takes place in the Northern Cape.
When you're at the events, you can't help but feel that family vibe when you go down into the Elf Renault Duster pits in the DSP. There's always people around, everyone offering you something to eat, something for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Family are huge in this sport.
There's nothing more important than our family. My wife, my 3 children, and their friends, and my wife's brothers and sisters, everybody that gets a chance to join us on the off-road race are equally important for us, because they bring the moral support. They bring the joy in getting in and out the car and sharing in our crying tears when we don't finish, and sharing with the cheering when we do make it to the podium. The family brings something totally different to the motorsport. You spend quality time with your family and friends. It changes the way you think about motorsport. So individually, my wife, my daughter Yvonne, Sean and Marley has been an intriguing part of my race career from the beginning. They've supported me in every event, wherever they can, all the way to South America to come and see us at the end of the podium in Dakar 2015 as well. Sean was fortunate enough to go to 2015 Dakar as a service crew member. But at every event, you'll find my wife in the pits. She's the one organizing the food, the drinks, having the conversation going, cleaning up behind us. That moral support and that physical support, you can't be a good racer without that.
Difficult times we are in for sure. Johan is the first to recognize that. But what does the future hold for the Elf Renault Duster cross-country racing squad for now in the short term and looking forward into next season for the long term?
So when we talk about the future in difficult times like these, it's almost impossible to imagine what happens tomorrow. So as racers, and racing development never stops. We're constantly working on a car, developing, making sure that the R&D stays on track. Developing the cars as we go along is most important to stay in par with the rest of the front. Tomorrow is a day that we can't predict at this point in time. So if we look at the 2020 season, we have a possibility of only 3 races that could take place should the regulations lift in the country. We have a confirmed KR 2020 season, the third one of its kind taking place in the Northern Cape coming up on the last week of September, beginning of August. We're looking forward to that. We've already entered. We actually were fortunate enough to compete in the previous 2, and we've got a championship to defend. Being the major 3,300 kilometer race taking place in our South African borders, at this point in time, that's the closest race that we're looking to compete in. As for the rest of the season, it will be determined whether MSA and the country lockdown rules allows us to start racing on the local front again. We're looking forward to 2021. We're looking forward to an impressive 2021 SACCS series, making up some lost time and get to prove our R&D in action, combined with the possibility of Dakar again. I would love to go to Saudi, and with the right combination of sponsorships, it is a possibility.
So that's our first show. I hope you guys are going to stay with us for the duration of this journey. The next episode is coming up in 2 weeks' time, where we'll turn the spotlight back to the workshop, and the star of the show this time will be the car, the Elf Renault Duster, down to the bones, and we'll get up close and personal with the car to find out a little bit more of what makes it tick and how its journey started and also where it's heading. Tune in then. Thanks once again for joining us on the first show brought to you by the Elf Renault Duster Cross Country Racing Squad.